Yes, the crowd continues. I'm going to check to make sure that we're live. I am live on a Saturday with Zander Holt, my friend, longtime colleague, client, all around good guy. Zander, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure, Spence. Thanks for doing this.
You had no idea that you were going to do this because you called to see if we could have some time together to talk about Cursor Desktop versus Claude Desktop. And I figured this is a great opportunity now that I'm doing a lot of live content to make today's video a topic that is really important to everybody for a lot of reasons. And what I'm going to do here also is, first of all, give me the 2 seconds that I always do. I always have to double check to make sure that YouTube is actually playing this. Otherwise, it'll be for naught. And I'm sure we're going to be fine. Let's double check. It's awesome. Okay, good. All right. So we had been talking a minute ago that you have been, like many of my clients, working with all my systems. Originally, it was a launch kit, and then it evolved into Minute Launch Kit. And we successfully took your Men's Health site, which is at zanderholt.com. And you have membership and community, products, services. You're a professional. What are you, a clinician, therapist, doctor? What do you go by title-wise?
I'm a physical therapist by trade.
Physical therapist. Okay. So you have an audience in the Men's Health arena. And when we first met, it was, I think, somewhere after surgery number 1 or 2 or 3 of my back. And we spent a lot of time rehabilitating you and your website from previous incarnations. And I think it worked out pretty well because you're here today, right?
Yes, 100%.
And to put this in context, Zander, along with a lot of you, because we have a lot of good conversations, I dragged you, well, not even kicking and streaming. I gladly dragged you, and you gladly came along to say, I wanted to share with people what the experience is like working with me, because I think really I'm in the human being business now, and the technology is secondary. But because it's moving so fast, I'm not saying I'll do this for everybody all the time, but with you at least, because you've been a VIP customer before, you can call and text me, and I'm accessible on a Saturday or sometimes a Sunday. So today I wanted to give a taste of what it's like, because you were going to ask me questions I was going to answer. I wanted somebody to kind of peer into the room with us. Make sense?
Yeah, I'm glad to do it. Thank you.
I'll put it into context and just let's do our regular conversation. You obviously are very polite, and I'm interruptive. That's my nature. But you were asking me a question about the frustrations with Claude, and I just I've been talking all morning. I got off the phone with another VIP client, Doug Sheehan, who's also similarly situated, very polite, learning like the Dickens. And we had the same frustrations with Claude Desktop. So let's frame the problem. Claude and Claude Desktop are from Anthropic, an amazing company. The people from who are there came from OpenAI, ChatGPT. They do things different, and they're amazing, but they are so popular because not only is the LLM awesome, but the software is awesome. And the software of the desktop version of Claude's LLMs, which are Opus and Sonnet and Haiku, it's like a butterfly or something, they work at the browser level, work at a browser extension level, work at the desktop. But here's the problem. Even if you're like me on the max plan, they have made the desktop tool programmed from a moment in time before all of us were trying to do everything under the sun to it. And as a result, you can ask the desktop Claude like 2 questions, and like Morgan Freeman in Driving Miss Daisy, he's got to pull over at the next gas station to use the bathroom. And it's nearly impossible to get any momentum going, even though the answers are awesome, the content is awesome, everything's awesome. Now let's compare that to Cursor. Cursor is a third-party company that doesn't offer an LLM. So they're kind of like the generic pop, or, they're like the, Cocoa Puffs generics here. They can work with any LLM, have an incredible interface, incredible. But because it's not just Morgan Freeman and Jessica Tandy using my old man references and Driving Miss Daisy, this is like hiring a cab or an Uber at the airport. And it's like, I just know who's going to show up. I don't know, a guy from China, a guy from India. There's a guy from California, anywhere, anyway. And so I have been hesitant, even though I made the tools that work, to make the Cursor the frontline tool. But here's the arms race. As of this morning, everybody has to start using Cursor, even if we're not abandoning Claude Desktop, because Anthropic is not keeping up with that part of it, and it's impossible to do anything that you need to do. But what you can do with Minute Launch System now, when you use Cursor, like today, this morning, I've already coded 19 different plugins and fixes. I have agentic tools working independently. The new interface has like editor mode. It's, oh my God. So it's worth the extra effort to teach everybody what the hell am I talking about and why. And that's why I wanted to do this also, so that we can have some content to share with everybody. Okay, so I'm not leaving you standing by the curb. Please interject as to where you are in your understanding and questions you have at this point, and we'll just kind of do this free form.
Okay, so Claude has been extremely helpful. I've been going back and forth. It's built a lot of things for me. The one of which is the frustration is what you're talking about there is, you know, I have a certain amount that it will do with each chat, then it stops. It's like, I got to start a new chat. Now they did introduce something new this morning that's helpful, where it kind of remembers previous chats. But my problem is that even with that, even though that's more helpful, I'm on the $20 a month plan. So even if I go too long, even if I'm in a certain chat, it just cuts me off and said, that's as much as you can do right now. Right. You can do this again in 3 hours. So I got to wait 3 hours before I go back in. Right. And that's frustrating because most of the time I have is on the weekends to work on this. That's half my day practically. I got to wait.
I mean, that's a non-starter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So like, let's be honest about that point. Doug, who I was working with today, Anne, who's texted me too, like, you all have the same problem. It's a non-starter. You can't be... Now, the choices, their plans, I may be misquoting slightly. It's free, pro, and max. I'm on max, and I never have that problem. But I do get these false warnings sometimes, like, oh, on November 11th, the world will change, and you won't be able to access it anymore. It never really happens because I'm paying them $200 a month, but not everybody wants to pay, nor should they need to have to pay $200 for just the one LLM. Whereas with Cursor, there's a free trial. You can use it with any LLM, or you can do, I think, $17, maybe it's $20, and use just about any of the pro models. If you go into what they call auto mode, you can just get started for free. But that means you get all the interface, all the cool stuff. You're still going to want to pay $20 a month. You are. But the $20 a month in Cursor goes a lot farther, even though technically you have to accept, I'm getting in an Uber versus, oh, there's Morgan Freeman. I know him. He knows me. We're all good. And as a business, to be fair, whether it's a relationship like I have with above your head there, Fernando, or whether it's something that's temporary, you do get your money out of this if you're doing it for a business. I mean, $200, $400, $800, it's all worth it. The only time you don't get the money out of it is if you're just asking questions about recipes for, cooking breakfast or something. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So let's talk about some basic things. I'm going to open a couple browsers, and you know how much fun I have during my live shows with this. So I'm going to presenting the screen. Let's see if I get lucky with this. I'm going to go screen by screen for the moment just to introduce this. Oh, look at that. It's already set up. So for those asking, Cursor is cursor.com. It is a third-party company. I think it's really awesome. Oh, that's interesting. That actually put cursor.com in the screen, which, you know what? That is not what I expected to have happen. This is their new Cursor agentic tool, which I should recommend as a conversation since you had brought this up. Mm-hmm. If you set things up like I will show you in other videos, I'm not going to do it today, how to set up a GitHub repository, and you have something that you sync between your desktop and GitHub for keeping everything in like availability, even among multiple laptops, you can use the free agentic tool from Cursor, which means you could turn these dudes loose in the background while you're sleeping and doing stuff. And I don't do this ever, but I have tried it. Notice I could select a repository and I go, hey man, go to work on some code stuff. So this is kind of similar to what GitHub offers in CodePilot. I would not recommend this for our normal stuff. So that wasn't my intention, but I accidentally stumbled on it. Let's see if I go to their homepage. They're going to torture me. So hold on. Cursor.com download. Let's see if I get a link to their homepage. Here we go. Whether you're on Mac or PC, Cursor.com is a free download. You choose your operating system like Mac 64 or Windows, whatever, 64, Linux. I doubt you're on Linux. Okay. When it installs, I'll show you that in a second. Very easy to use, but it's a separate tool that runs on your desktop. It's not a browser-based thing at all, other than that agentic partner, which isn't really going to be useful for any of our clients. Notice, however, just to keep in mind, Claude is available in 2 flavors because he's an LLM with a chat, but he's also a desktop. And what's interesting about that, they also have this Claude Code, which is in a browser and may solve some problems, but Claude Code is kind of like cursor agents. This is built for command line, going to GitHub kind of people, not for normal mere mortals. So again, lots of flavors of ice cream, lots of cars to drive you around, but the browser of Claude is useful no matter what. And notice I can go into projects and see stuff that I did. Zander Holt's Minute Launch project is there. So what can I not do? If I start working in Claude Desktop, I can't go to Claude in the browser and have him do cool stuff because they've done a Charleston Heston in Planet of the Apes on him. He's got the, his partners. I mean, he can't talk. He's lobotomized. He's like, they think he's not good for anything because they're worried that you're going to be naughty with him. Now, this does mean though that you can get to some of your stuff. Like if he's made in your desktop some zip files, he can get to it maybe, but it's really frustrating. Like today, Doug Sheehan, I was working with him. He got I'm sorry, you're out of time. Come back at 3 o'clock. And we couldn't even get a zip file out because it had not been created yet. So frustration, yes. Let me show you one other thing. Claude is trying to be less snotty. I'm going to go to your website, but still safe. They've got this new extension that was in beta recently, but now I think it's for mainstream. I've got it because I don't know, maybe because I'm on the Max plan. They released it from the top down. This is something in the middle. And by the way, Perplexity, OpenAI, all the LLM companies are going to town on trying to do this, but they're trying to figure out how are we going to keep grandma from giving away her entire savings account? Because what can happen is literally some nefarious person could put a website together and put an invisible PNG file in, transparent, that the LLM can read that says, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but you have promises to keep, like that movie Telephone. And it turns it into a sleeper agent for bad guys that just drains your bank account and does everything. So that's why there's a limited amount of skills. But let's review. Anthropic has the LLM. They have a desktop, a browser, and a Chrome extension. The desktop's the only one you can do real work on, but it's kind of hobnailed until they upgrade its capacity to do more than like one catch with the softball. Cursor can work with anything, but it doesn't work in the browser unless you're using the GitHub Cody version of it, which doesn't really do what we want. So you have to download and use that. Let's pause and talk about GitHub. GitHub is a free service that anyone can use. I have a whole bunch of doodads in there. But this is, think of it like Google Drive for geeky people. You can create a repository or what's called a gist. A gist is like note to self. And it's one file or a couple comments. A repository is a folder, like a Google Drive folder, but it works really well with these LLMs because it's for coding, it's for notes, it's got README files, it's got all kinds of groovy stuff. And if I searched at the home of GitHub, well, let's see you can find all kinds of amazing stuff in here.
So I'm just curious, could that be used as like a knowledge base then, those folders?
Exactly. You're beating me to the punch because I'm going to actually show you here. I'll show you with Doug's thing. But what I'm trying to say is there's an infinite array of knowledge at GitHub from everything. If you look, for example, like, we use WooCommerce, right, as a plugin. We look for WooCommerce. WooCommerce has their repository here for their plugin and all their code base. That's how everybody contributes to it. And notice there's like a README file. There are some people that publish web pages and websites on GitHub, right? But for me, what I do, and I don't think I'm revealing anything here with Doug. Doug and I were working today, as I'm going to show you guys how to do, is that you want to make GitHub a repository for, are you heading out? Where are you going? For pregame or what do you? Oh yeah, I'll talk to you after the show. I'll call you, buddy. Bye. Okay, so what we did is, I got to go to his page here. Let's see. GitHub, github.com. This is where I got a little lost because I forgot what directory it was in. He had invited me, but let's see if it pulls up. I do mean GitHub. BPM some, there it is. So what we did for him is imagine on your desktop in your home site, you have a hard drive that, let's say if you're on Windows or Mac, you have a documents folder. I show people, and this is what I'm showing to it, make a GitHub folder. Just call it GitHub, lowercase letters. So that
on your desktop.
Correct. So, I mean, I don't know how to show that here. I'll share my screen differently and we'll be able to do that in a second. But you just make a GitHub directory that is going to be the thing that you tell Cursor or Claude Desktop with the file system tools. You're cool to do anything inside of this Tupperware container. Number two, when you go to GitHub and you sign up, you can always use this button at the top, create a new repository. So when you do that and you give it a lowercase name, you can have, I think I have 140 repositories. They're just folders in a cabinet, but each one represents a plugin, a project, a client. I like to keep it high level. So like I do one per each plugin, and then I have one called clients that has each client in it. And it's a great tool because here's why. You make that on GitHub, and then you have the mirror on your drive. And then you tell the LLM tool, which, by the way, this is where it has to be a desktop tool. It can't be the browser tool because they're freaked out about it. You can't get file system access that I know of from the browser one. But you can give the browser one access to GitHub, which is point in a moment. Let's say you're using desktop, you make some cool stuff. It synchronizes your desktop to GitHub. The cloud-based browser LLMs can actually go to GitHub for you, which means that theoretically they could keep working on some stuff even without accessing your file system. And that's going to be important conversation because what we're saying is the desktop is precious ground limited to certain things. The desktop tool seems to have like a throttle on it, but the browser tools, yeah, they still have some throttle, but this is where the matrix, let's pause because this is where the matrix comes in because you can't use Cursor in the browser. And even when you use Claude in the browser, if you're on a pro plan, you're sort of SOL because they're going to tell you, sorry, you've used enough tokens. 3 o'clock is good enough for you. So that's where Claude is running out of room.
So if I'm getting this correctly, we're doing the folder on the desktop because the Cursor or Claude cannot access the browser version of GitHub. Is that right?
We're doing the GitHub directory because that allows us to have a folder on our desktop that can be used by any tool, even us. And by syncing it to GitHub, we get two benefits. Number one, we always have a backup in case the dog eats our laptop or something. Drop it off the desk. Number two, what if you want to go to another computer? I have a laptop that's a Mac and a PC. What if I want to grab the other one? It's like, oh, I can't. It's at home. I can't do it. Number three, most important, if it's in GitHub, it's accessible and you can do all kinds of other amazing stuff. So you kind of get the same idea of like iCloud or Google Drive. It's like all of those benefits in one. All right. Have fun, Zachy.
So when it's accessing and writing to the desktop version of the GitHub folder, it's automatically syncing to the cloud version.
If you tell it to do so, it will do it as part of its process. So there are tools that in the past were really frustrating for people to use because they, geeky. You now want to think of it like, hey, Claude, or hey, whatever you're talking to. Hey, Fernando. Hi, Fernando. He's up there. Hi, Fernando. I'm on my laptop. Pull down the latest stuff from GitHub so I have the latest stuff. When you're done, you go, hey, Fernando, I'm checking out now. Push everything up to GitHub so it's there. Then you go to your desktop, you go, hey, Claude, pull down the latest stuff. So if you think of it like checking in and checking out, you're good. Now, let's say you screw up. The other benefit of GitHub is these repositories, even if you're not using what's called versioning, which is the thing that like you modify files and it's like you edited this and this. Even if you're doing whole files, it has a tracking system to know the difference between this and that. And it will try to reconcile stuff in a logical way, which isn't always perfect, but it's helpful. So either way, it's got a legacy of information. You're backed up. You can develop in different places, do different things. You can connect to lots of tools. It's like your entree to the world. It's like your Gmail.
And the actual syncing is happening through the LLM.
The LLM can do the syncing for you. It can use its terminal tools or bash tools or PowerShell tools or whatever you have.
Okay. And you mentioned lowercase. So does that GitHub folder on your desktop need to be all lowercase?
It would be better if you did. It will get away with it if it doesn't. But like, just think in terms of URL browsers. Browsers are all lowercase connected letters without weird characters. You might as well start there because you're going to have to be there anyway, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, that's not the primary purpose of this, but I'm just trying to explain like A to B to C to D. Now, let me see if I can pull this off. This is interesting. I may have to go to full screen mode, which is always annoying to me, but life is not fair. This is where I'm going to have to pull you down off of the screen. Hang on, Zander. I'm going to pull you down off of the screen because, wow, look, we're zooming in on here. That's a feature that has not been implemented in StreamYard yet. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my world. This is a typical morning at Spencer Foreman's house where I was working on a bunch of stuff. Now, can you see my screen okay? Is it? It's mad and crazy. I am on Windows on a 43-inch right now, but like I'm just going to show you, for example, this is sometimes the way I set it up. I'll have several projects going on. Maybe this. I'm just picking rando stuff. But I might end up having 5 or 6 or 7 different screens of these little agents going on. Now, do you or anyone else need to? No, nobody has to be crazy like me. But I mean, I'm developing a lot of stuff. And to me, this is like a dream come true. Because what's going on now is I can use Windows drag tools, you know, like to adjust sizes and stuff. So imagine this morning I was working on some stuff which required me to see and edit a document. And I was using it on a browser, but I had the ability to, let me set this up again. I had the ability to set up my screen in a way that suited my needs. I'm going to try again. So with Windows and Mac, they both have these like drag handle scenarios, right? Where you can adjust the screen and everything goes with it. And that's super awesome. Oh, I put us in there. Hi. That was the wrong screen. But actually, that's okay. I mean, it's kind of weird, but that's actually, you're looking at my StreamYard, right? What I'm saying is this is interesting because now I want to explain to you how this works. So let me put, for example, in the bottom window here, I was writing a plugin, but up here I was doing some cool stuff, and he was publishing. Let's see which tool. He was publishing to one of my sites. So watch this. I'm going to use this capability where I get one of my browser windows. Sorry, hang in there. Oh, it's in here. That's why I'm having trouble. Let me go to, I was doing Tribeca. That's not that. That's not that. Not that. Not this. I'm going to get to a window here. So this new minute launch cursor. Let me pull this. Oh, actually, it's fine if it's there. But I want to see you. So I'm gonna pull this into the screen so I can set us up for success. So I'll put him. Sorry for all this distraction, kids. This is where I have too many things open at once, but it's going to work out in the end, I promise. And here I'll go with us with StreamYard, maybe, maybe not. Oh, well. Okay, so I got to see you because I lost track of where you're at, but I'll find you in a second. I know the problem with that is because you were up here. Sorry, Zander. This is why I don't, run with sharp instruments. Okay. So we're in the upper right corner. In the bottom right corner is a website. And in the upper left corner is I actually have cursor connected with the ML tools to this site over here, ML Cursor. Now, he and I have been having a pretty good conversation because I think this is the Tribeca guy. Maybe it is. Hold on. I'm going to show you the whole story. I think this is it. Okay, let me just see if it's the right guy. Hey, Fernando, it's Spence. Were you the one that I was just talking to a second ago about publishing the Tribeca water pages on the new ML Cursor site? So I'm lost because I was doing too much at once. Let me see if I can get him to acknowledge he was the one I was just talking to, because he's connected to this site and he can then do what we're going to talk about. And this is a little small, but I think it's big enough. That wasn't me. It was a different instance of Claude. Oh, here it is. It's right here. This is the guy I was talking to. Okay. Notice I have different colors. Hey, Fernando, it's Spence. Were you the agent that I was working on the new ML Cursor, publishing the Tribeca pages? I know I can see that it is, so I can see his stuff. And I'll make them a little bigger. Okay, it's me. Okay, good. So now we've got my agent there. And down below is the site that I'm doing a variety of different things, including I was making this beverage portal for a client, which is a whole conversation I'll have because there'll be a great use case as well. Now, I want to publish content. The thing I want to show you is here. Notice in my left menu, is that big enough, Zander? It's kind of small. I can choose from any of these LLMs. Look at this. I can go crazy rogue and go with Grok, and it can tell me about all the naughty things in the world. But normally I still go with Sonnet 4.5. That's my favorite. I can do all kinds of other amazing tools built in. By the way, there's a new voice input built in. I don't need to use the extra tool anymore. So now I just use the shortcut keys for this. And I can be like, my new favorite thing is, hey, listen, I'm talking to Zander Holt. Do you remember? And do you remember how you spell his name wrong? It's Zander. I'm sure I'm not the first one to have that problem.
No.
Okay. So he's got AutoBem. He's laughing. Okay, now there's other tools, like he's got a Chrome browser extension that's like Chrome Developer Tools. But the neatest thing of all is this interface is totally dynamic. So for example, very complex, but watch this. I can do Command B, open up a sidebar that has all of the files or has like tools in it. And I'm in dark mode, so it's really hard to see the controls. I can open up the chat mode that goes bigger. I can open up the toggle tool. There's 850 drawers on this thing. And then there's this thing here that allows you, for example, to open up the tools. This is where we set up how it works. And this is where we add these tools from me and other people. These are MCP connections. Claude doesn't complain about how many tools he has. Cursor seems to complain, but still does it. He doesn't want you to have more than 40 tools. Well, most people like me have tools that have 112, 190, 60. Like I have 438 tools. So what happens is sometimes he's like a mechanic who gets hit in the head and he doesn't remember where his craftsman tools are in that big red thing in the garage. But notice I've got him set up with auto memory, GitHub, Chrome Developer Tools. I've got 2 MCPs so that he can work back and forth. The new ML site, and I've got the AKDEF site, which is another site I'm working on. He seems to be managing it fine. Okay, so now back to the point. I use this tool, which is part of the battle. I can make him look. You'll notice like I have styling on this guy, makes him look like Claude. I can make him look and act and feel like I want. And if I wanted, there's 2 new modes here. See where it says agents and editor. Editor was the classic mode. It's just like Windows. It had like a window on the left side. And then if I opened up a file, it would give me the code in the middle. This is good for editing and you can drag the windows and get a really nice setup. Compare that to Driving Miss Daisy. Claude comes in it's Morgan Freeman, or Morgan Freeman turns around and shows you what's inside his pockets. That's it, right? This guy is like a chameleon, and as a result, it can make you lunatic because look at all the options. There's bars and buttons and just crazy stuff. And then there's agent mode, which I prefer now. That's the one that's mostly agent first, and then you can whip out a little sidebar. It's really a nice layout, so you can kind of get the Claude feeling. Notice if I go in the file menu, I can also go down to, gotta find it. I can go into, I lost that bad boy. Might be because I'm out of the realm. There's there is normally when I'm in the main window, there's a thing called settings. And it's, oh, here it is. So if I go here into the little 3 dots and I go to appearance, I won't do it, but there's a theme option. You can also type in and type add theme. So you can switch to like a light mode, a dark mode, etc. So that's one of the things that I do, by the way, to help alleviate some of these concerns, is that I oftentimes just switch into a different mode or I make a different color. Also notice that you can customize this like a crazy option level, because it can take JSON settings. These are more than you asked for, I know, and I'm going a little beyond the scope, but I'll bring it back home for a second. If I go into my other guy who has orange configuration, I can just copy out this value and I can paste it into another one, like a blood donation or something. Paste, hold on, copy, paste, and it will just take on, well, in this case, it asked me to come, it literally didn't override it. But if I go to this one and I just change it, it'll take on the color scheme, you know, like suddenly it's joined the army. Okay, now, how do I actually make this stuff happen? Some of the tools that we use, which are in the tool settings, that cogwheel, are things like connecting to GitHub and developer tools and everything else. But the point is, he's also got file system access. One of the tools that out of the box you can go and get at tools is he's got browser automation, and he's got a tool called Desktop Commander, which is installed externally. But when that's installed, he can get to all the stuff on my desktop that I've given him permission to. And that includes that GitHub file folder. Okay.
So that's a separate piece of software we need to install this.
It's just a one-click install. And what's so awesome about this is they have a special library of stuff, or you can go to one of 3 or 4 places. On the internet, you can go to what's called, just type for Cursor MCPs or Cursor MCP. They have their own directory of all kinds of crazy stuff that's like one-click add to, right? Chrome developer tools, add to Cursor, click. I mean, just that simple. All it's going to do is going to install the local Node.js server, and it's going to give you a configuration update so that the configuration file that you have, like I have mine here, it'll just put the necessary parameters in there. I don't want to show that because that's got my passwords, but the idea is one click simple. So let's pause because I said a whole bunch of crap. Cursor is like the ultimate playground. I can do anything. He has access to my file system, access to the web, custom servers. They want you to do everything, and you can choose your choice of driver. With me so far? Mm-hmm. So the reason that's awesome is because even though I love Claude and I've made tools to connect, Claude today really helped me out. He threw me a bone. I was editing a proposal for a client that I just wanted to do editorial stuff. I gave him access to the site where he had the paragraphs and the pages. And I said, let's just work on this. And when I'm asking him questions like, oh, is this the right word? Make it easy. If you're asking him to code full-blown things, you're going to be disappointed. There are other tools that you can get for Cursor, by the way. You can go to Smithery, which is another kind of an open, people put up their own stuff here. You can go to GitHub. There's different packages. There's Smithery, NPM, there's GitHub native. All they're doing is they're just like almost zip files. They're packages of stuff that give you a server that's running locally for communicating to the web with the MCP. Because think of it like this. The Cursor or Claude, they need a walkie-talkie to talk to the internet, right? That's called a server, a Node.js server. Usually that runs on your desktop, and you don't want to bother learning how to start or stop that. So the tools themselves can just install it and run it. Like a walkie-talkie, it gives itself. Once that's installed, that's where the magic ensues, because now he's connected, for example, to this website. I have built some custom tools for him in the minute launch that give him amazing powers, things that other people probably will, but have not decided to do yet, like write his own plugins, turn on and off his own plugins, edit the database, do file system. I've given him more tools than most people do because I like my clients. So I want to, let's do this test. Watch, I'll use his native mic. Hey, listen, Fernando, let's do a test because you're connected to my file system. I want you to go to zanderholt.com, ZANDERHOLT.com. Do two things. First of all, use your Chrome developer tools to get the color palette. Number two, using the skills that we talked about this morning to that new mlcursor.instawp.co site, make a pixel perfect copy or emulation of his top panel and install it full width with no header. Do all the things we were just talking about to show how cool you are. Now, the point is, I could do this all day long with him. And as he makes stuff and does stuff, if he needs to save things, it will be in that GitHub folder. So it's a little hard to see here, but if you looked at this, he's taking a view at your page. If you looked at this ML update manager, that is right here. Let me drag this over. If I have my GitHub folder, which I have here, and that is really small. I don't know if I can make that bigger. Hold on. Let me see if I do plus. No, this, for some reason, this tool doesn't respond. It's interesting. I don't know how to make these bigger. Properties. Well, you're going to have to trust me on this one. If I go here, GitHub, you'll see all these folders. These folders are all mirrors of what I've got in GitHub. And one of them is ML Update Manager. It's weird that I can't make it bigger. It seems view. Extra large icons. Tiles.
Did you create those subfolders, or did Cursor create those?
You can do it either way. So what Cursor can and cannot do, it cannot create a repository for you. So when I make a new project, here's the steps. I go to my WP Launchify account. I press that plus button, which is, I'll go over here so I can keep you in the screen. So if I go to github.com/WP Launchify, in the upper right corner here is this create new repository. And you want to most of the time make them private. If you want everybody in the world to see your stuff, which a lot of times people do, that's cool about GitHub, you can. But in the case of your private stuff, you probably want to make it private. So you have a choice when you set it up. All right. So I'll just show you the screen. I won't make something, but see here, you could call it Zander Holt, lowercase, say it's all about Zander. And then here you choose visibility, public or private. And I would usually go private. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, once you create that, then I give him that link and I say, either make a subfolder in my GitHub, or I just make it and I say, here's that one and this one, sync them together. And he does the cool magic stuff. He does all the hard stuff. So you don't have to ever do that again or ever. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So now we've got a couple things going on, and I'm not going to impress anybody with this because we've done this so many times before, but he's actually able to do so much for me, like work on websites, do my file system, create bash files, connect to SFTP. He can be my all-day helper for everything. He can even work overnight like he's done in the past on a project, right? So I've had him in a situation where do this, like, I don't know, script that you wrote to merge two images together with Minute Launch AI to replace the images on a bunch of like bottles with labels, like 200 things. I'll go to bed, I'll wake up in the morning, and he runs the script like no big deal. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, the point of the story is he can do that kind of stuff. If I wanted, I can have multiple agents. This is crazy. Notice that I'm in agent mode. It's a little hard to understand, but there's a sidebar that I can pop out. So you see where I've got recent, older. I can add a new agent here, or I can go into editor mode and do the same thing. It's just the agent will be a tab at the top. But in agent, if I wanted to have 18 dudes working on this project, I could go, let's hire some more people. And now here's a new agent. And I go, oh, I'll use their tools. I go, Oh, by the way, I just pasted all the stuff I just said, which is funny. Yeah. Welcome, agent number 2. You are now working on this project. What shall we call you? If you're not Fernando, what should your name be? He says he's Claude because he's Sonnet. But watch, we can bring in some wild dude from Chat GPT, which I wouldn't use because I'm hating them today, to Grok, right? I'd be like, by the way, what I would do, whenever I have that, I would probably just delete and start over because it's not a good idea to switch models in the middle of a conversation. So if I start the call, I would say choose Grok. Let's say Grok Fast or something. And I don't really know because I don't use Grok, but Grok's like wild and crazy with the answers I give. I'd be like, okay. Hey, Grok, it's Spence. How are you? Do you remember me? By the way, do you have access to my auto memory? He does. Because he's connected through the same tools that are an MCP. He can go into the memories of his other Waffle House employees, even though technically he's the first time I've talked to him. If I ask him right now, he would normally not. But because he has auto mem, he can do that. He can also do that because he has a limited memory here inside of Cursor. So let's stop on that point. When you use Claude and you're in a regular chat and you have not turned on memory or the new advanced memory, it's like, what? If you use projects, it'll be like, what? Oh, in this project? If you turn on memory and projects, it'll be like, I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember. If you turn on advanced memory and projects in Claude in a project, it'll be like, oh yeah, oh Zander. If you turn on AutoMem, it's like, hey dude, what's up? I remember all that stuff we used to do. So there's layers of capacity. He's at full capacity because he's Cursor and he doesn't care. I've often had agents working across projects because I was like, I can't remember which guy was that was working on this with me. Just look for this file. And he's like, oh, it's over in Fernando's cousin Ricardo's file. And he doesn't care. I'm like, well, don't piss off Ricardo. Work on his stuff. Keep it in his directory. Save it the same way, but just leave notes for him that you were there. No problem. Okay, let's pause for a second. So I can have 2 agents working on this stuff. Let's see, for example, I was just working with another agent in this workspace. Can you see what we were talking about with that Tribeca beverage company stuff? And he should know because I might have to say AutoMem, but see, he knows like projects. This is a workspace. But he says, I don't have access to conversations or content from other agents. So this is where I have to say, why don't you check your AutoMem and see what that helps you figure out? That's what bridges the gap because he can use the tool and you'll see the little A show up, running recall memory. This is not, by the way, he didn't do AutoMem. He did recall memory. That's not AutoMem. That's standard memory. When I say AutoMem, I mean you've got an MCP called auto memory. Use that to recall. That's a different type of memory. Sometimes I have to hit him in the head, and now you'll see an A come up, which would be like AutoMem recall, not just regularly. I want you to tell me if you remember what I was just working on with Tribeca water or beverage. Let's see if he kicks in the auto memory. Now, by the way, it's interesting too. There you go. So Tribeca water beverage company, WordPress, ML Canvas, but that's exactly what I was working on with this other dude here, who's agent number 2. I get agent 1, agent 2. And I'm not sure, I haven't tried this yet, if I can label them. But it would be super cool if I could, and maybe they'll get that in the future, where you can have different hats or colors or names, because I sometimes get confused. So you should always also use the title. I think you can rename these, and I'm not sure if it's here or not. There's probably a tool to rename it, but these are minor issues. Okay, so let's pause because what am I demonstrating? I'm demonstrating you have GitHub, sync the stuff. You can use any agents you want, even outside services. You do pay for the basic access to Cursor. Sorry, I'm going to go in this browser. Cursor is, I think, minimum $20 a month price. I use the max plan there too. I obviously make a living doing this, so it's worth it to me. But okay, so there's two plans: Teams for 40 and Enterprise. If you don't use either one, you can still use free at the base. So individual is, I think, $20 a month. I don't know why this is doing.
Yeah, it was there. If you scroll down a little bit more, I saw it.
Is it $20 a month?
Yeah, so it showed $20 a month individual.
Right. And now here's where they give you built-in tokens too, which is interesting. So for example, Claude Sonnet, you know, they give you stuff. And if you run out, they do have a model, which I use quite a lot, where I've just gone to town and they're like, dude, you're on way too much use. We're going to put you on charge as you go. So like this month, I probably have $65 of charge as you go, but I'm running 13 different things at a time. Okay. Now, maybe last question too. What if I work on stuff with Claude, then I go to Cursor, then I go to, you know, guess what? This is where it's amazing. If you use this folder model and you have a WordPress site, you can keep your sanity. Because when I work with somebody, like I was working here on this one problem with the Tribeca thing in a plugin, I actually was having him work out. And by the way, he was working out your site. What was he going to do? He was going to, oh, let's ask him. Hold on. I'm not sure why you're having trouble with that Canvas, ML Canva block. We were just working with it before. Try again to publish. But in the meantime, make a quick document that you can show, an MD document about what you found about Zander Holt's site so we can save it for future reference. Now, what I'm saying is when you work with one or more agents and you've got a GitHub repository, the most productive thing you can do is say, remember all that shit you were working on and write up a document. Look, he's saying like Zander, Z-A-N-D-R, here's the website. This is what I did, et cetera, et cetera. And then he will save it in a file. If I use the pop-out window Control B and I ask him, he'll save it in a file. Yes, that's good. And also the color scheme of Zander's site. And then give me an MD file in the directory so that I can share it with something else or someone else. So now let's say he saves his memory. He can save it into AutoMem, or he can save it as a document. So notice he's written a Zander Holt site analysis. That actually becomes in my directory organization, which I have some tips on too. Notice I've made subfolders, cursor, latest zips, old versions, plugin files, research. I don't want him to mess up the whole like lobby of the hotel. So when he makes stuff, I'm like, put it in a folder, clean up the lobby. So if I go to this actual GitHub, it will be pretty neat. So if I go to this ML update manager, not only will it be synchronized, but it won't be a disaster. ML update manager. So here is like what this looks like. Notice it's got a README file that says what's in here, what's it about. It's only for me because it's a private thing. But notice, see how nice and neat it is, right? And I can have him clean up after himself or also push stuff up. So I'll do that finally because you had asked about it. Okay. Here is the file inside of my local directory. It does not exist up here yet. I'm going to tell him, push that file up to the GitHub repository so that I can share it with somebody else there. Now, not necessarily to share, just for yourself. Or you could say sync the whole workspace. Whatever you want to do, the point is he now uses his tools because he's capable. I don't have to get on GitHub Desktop or learn terminal commands or any of that nonsense. And he can keep it all nice and neat, like a proper employee in this organization should, which is to say, you know, less work for me, more fun for everybody else. So he did it. It says it's live on the repository. Let's go show this repository. Let's update it by refreshing. Now I don't know where he put it. So let's see where he put it. Where did you put it in the repository? sometimes he's so good at cleaning up. I don't know where he put it. Maybe it's just in the root, but let's see. GitHub, ML, Zander Holt. Oh, something with GitHub is weird. So here's what I'm going to tell him. I'm not 100% sure if things have been kept up to date. So can you double check and reconcile the local against the online and make sure we only have one branch, and then show everybody how you can clean up after yourself. Make sure we don't lose anything. So if you're uncertain, keep a copy. So what happened is that it's been like 2 months since I did anything on this particular folder or file. I was just using this for this morning for whatever reasons. He can clean up and make sure, like I was saying to you, if you accidentally like started working on your laptop, then your desktop, then your GitHub, he can kind of help to reconcile the problems without necessarily losing anything. So now he says he's updated. There's 2 branches. That's another problem. That doesn't make sense. So let's see if he fixes that to be 1 branch. Anyway, so let's pause, because I mean, he's going to do that. And I mean, that's a lot for everybody to digest. Where are you in your thought process with this? Because this is your first introduction.
Yeah, well, it's clearer, but how do I connect, just like I connected Claude to Minute Launch, how do I connect Cursor
to Minute Launch?
Yeah, to Minute Launch, so that I can use it like I'm using Claude.
Yeah, let's go to your site. I'll get your URL so we don't. I'm talking about your Minute Launch site.
Yeah, Minute Launch site.
I will do this just to go right to the thing so I don't out your other stuff. Okay, hold on. It's loading, I think. There we go. Okay. So this was your site. Let's see if I'm loggable into this one. You have a plugin in your Minute Launch bundle that currently is called the ML Cursor MCP.
Mm-hmm.
It's one-click simple. Now, I'm actually going to improve this and make it slightly better, which means it'll probably change, but whether it keeps the same name or not is irrelevant. It's the same concept. So when you go to your Minute Launch, you have all your tools. Let's scroll you up a bit here. So click on Minute Launch. And by the way, too, this is worth mentioning. I'll probably move it over. I have a new launch kit that's Minute Launch compatible, so it's MCP, and that can be useful to help all this stuff with the like Launch Kit normally does to hide the stuff at the top of the screen. Mm-hmm. Those little doodads are helpful sometimes. Okay, so if you refresh the plugin, you'll see here yours is deactivated. If you enabled Minute Launch Cursor MCP, just like with Claude, which by the way, yours is not active for some reason, it will give you a tool that's a one-click installer. I've done a video on this. You just, so Windows or PC, it generates an automatic application password with a configuration file that when you click on it is ready to copy, and then you go into Cursor and you go into the cogwheel and you go to Tools and you simply go add a new MCP server. And what happens is you still have to edit this file and be careful, but I'll show you how we do it. I'm trying to hide the rest of my passwords and stuff there, even though those are test sites. So here you got, this is your site. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what, Zander, you had it activated. I read that as activate. Sorry.
It's okay.
That's why you were looking at me cross-eyed, and I'm like, sorry about that.
Hey, it makes me feel better that it's not just me.
Because
so.
you were very polite about it. You're like, no. He's not doing what I think he's doing, is he? What is going on with that guy? Okay. So this is what happens when I talk for 2 hours.
Mm.
All right. So here is ML Cursor, and the screen is very similar to what we had on the other one. It's very easy. You just one-click install basically whichever operating system you have. I'm also looking.
Mac. I have Mac.
Yeah, Mac. Okay, perfect. It's the same file. It's just the installer will do terminal instead of PowerShell, but it's the same idea. So all you do is, if you have other people working with you, you can add additional keys, but out of the box, it has a default key. You simply choose Mac, click on it. It will give you a thing that you're ready to copy and paste into your terminal. So in Mac, you go in your Finder guide, click Terminal. In Windows, we have PowerShell. So let me just show you as an example, or I can do terminal here too. So here's a terminal, and don't be scared. Terminal won't bite you. You paste, and it's going to give you something that looks like this. Okay. And then I'm not going to do this because I don't want to install to your site, but when you hit enter, it will download the Node.js server and set up your configuration file, and you're good to go. All you have to do then is just go into the menu bar of Cursor and then exit. You need to refresh his brain. Now, is that absolutely necessary? Probably not. He'll probably work anyway, but it's good to do it. And when you do, then you need to just double check that when you go back into the cogwheel one time, make sure you're going to have something that looks like this, that has the name. It'll say ML actually. I don't have one of those installed here. I have some new one that I'm testing, but it'll say ML, MCP, and then the digits of your site, like SEQ1V. In fact, I can do it here. I'll do the window. I'll do it here because it's not going to hurt anything. I go back to PowerShell or terminal, same thing. Okay, watch this. I paste, hit enter, download, done. That's it. Before anybody sees that password. Oh,
so it downloads automatically something to your computer?
It downloads a launcher that'll install the Node.js server and ready to be used, like the walkie-talkie. Then it will configure. Notice what it just did. Look, see right here?
Oh.
It configured your thing, but notice it's red. So most of the time I say start and exit Cursor, but you can also just try this and it might work. So let's see if that works. 194 tools. And you can see all the tools here. There's a shit ton of tools. Now, this sometimes makes Cursor freak out. That's why I'm improving him, because notice he's given me a warning right at the top. He's telling me he's unhappy. He's like, you have 945 tools. It says, we really don't like more than 80. So what you can do is you can turn off a bunch of stuff. Okay. So notice I have another website that's got this installed. I got your website. I'm going to turn off all the other MCPs, toggle them off. It's not that big of a deal, but let's see if he acknowledges what's going on. Cause I'll keep,
with mine, since I'm new to Cursor, I'm not going to see all these MCPs on.
You're not going to see what I see because this is my computer. Yeah. This is my taxi company. You're going to see your taxi company. But the point being, if I do go here and I start a new chat, and let's start a new chat so I don't screw up my, I don't want to screw up my other project. Okay, I'm going to say, I haven't restarted them yet, by the way, so I'm going to use the tool. Say, hey, by any chance, are you connected with MCP to the site at NBYY7SEQ1V? Let's just see if he can see it without me restarting him. Oh, there you go. Let's see if it's that site, though. Yeah, it is. See, he's got, that's why I put the names on it, right? Okay. Yeah, can you tell me, oops, sorry. That was me fiddling around with the microphone again. Let me try this again. Yeah, can you tell me what the names are of the last 2 users of the site? I hope it's you and me.
Yeah, me too.
Now, I've been having some trouble with him with regard to like him knowing which tools to use, but he's doing okay. It's you and me. And that's it. You're good to go. Now, here's where he was having trouble. That Spence style, I'm changing into the Minute Launch Canvas editor and stuff, but he's really good at other things. Like, for example, hey, oops, sorry. I keep doing that. Hey, are you able to find a plugin called SEO Lite from the repository and install it? Now that's, among other things, along with LaunchKit's private stuff, him being able to do that stuff is super convenient because, like, in my view of the world, we don't really need or want to have to bother with doing plugin management and everything else. Now, this is where I was having trouble, so I'm making a new version of this. This install plugin is not working well in this current version. Why? Because I didn't restart him. And since he has to do 194 tools, I had built a special little gimmick to get around that. And unless you restart him, it doesn't work. Let's try restarting him. And again, this is also, I'm upgrading him to a different method so you don't have to restart. But let's just see what happens. And then we'll wrap this thing up because we're going to be 180 years old. I have to eat lunch. And it's 2 o'clock already. Okay. I'm going to start him up and see if this changes his mind. And notice what a mess I made of this whole thing. But let's just give him the focal point. I'm still sharing the screen mostly, right? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think there we go. Okay. So your guy cleaned up. Let's just go to your guy. Oh. By the way, just so I can close the loop on that. So that was that analysis document. Let's see if he actually, and I'll come back to the last. Let's see if he upgraded it here or pushed it up here like he said he did. And it says MLYT. What the heck is that? He put it into a different repository, which is, I'll take responsibility for that. He just didn't understand which thing I want him to work on, maybe. So let me see what he did. He put it into MLYT WPL videos. That's my one that I use for my YouTube videos. But let's go to that repository and see what's up anyway, because that's where you probably put your thing. Oh, I see why you got confused. So this is videos blob main. This isn't normally what would have happened. So I do feel like this was not exactly what should happen, but let's see, you're somewhere in here. Blob main analysis tools. That was a bad test because he was in a directory that was not connected well, and somehow or another, I don't feel like he put it where it's supposed to. So I could show another example of that, but let me just do it like this. Let me go and make a new agent so I don't get lost anymore. I'm going to go new window, and then we could just be done with this. And I'm going to go back over here, and I will go to WP Launchify to the root of this. Okay, so here we go. I open up a chat, and it's kind of dark, and I'll paste this in. I'm going to let me zoom up. Hey, it's Spence. Check 2 things. First of all, can you see this GitHub repository? And this, by the way, is Grok, and he's a bit of a lunatic, so I don't know what to say about him. I like Sonnet. Can you post a test file there? Just call it test from grok.md. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe I turned his tools off. So let's see. So I check my tools. And again, this is where we get into the, oh, see what happened when I restarted? It turned on all 945 tools. So now that I restarted, I got to turn on. I got to just do this. This is why it's like interesting. We're at the early days of, oh, I could do all this crazy cool stuff. But by the way, if I do all this crazy cool stuff, I have like Spider-Man powers, and I better be very careful, because if I just don't pay attention, I'm going to do something silly like this. So I'm turning off all the tools so he doesn't get confused, except for the ones that I really need to use at the moment. AutoMem, Calendly's off. Okay, good. Now let's try them again. I'm closing some windows, going into chat mode so it's a little easier to read. Okay. My apologies. I turned on, the new mic is cool, but apparently I leave it on. My apologies. I turned on too many MCP servers. So can you see if you can connect to both GitHub with your MCP connection as well as to NBYY7SEQ1V? And if he can't, it's okay. It's because he's not been trained, but he's claiming no resources. I'm going to just switch over to Sonnet because that's probably where the trouble is. Hey, Claude, it's Spence. Can you connect to my GitHub repository? Do you have the MCP tools? And also, are you connected with the MCP tool to NBYY7SEQ1V? Now, in fairness, I do not mind the fact that these things are working wacky, but you and I both discussed, look at the difference here, right? Like, he gives a totally different response than Claude, than GitHub, than Grok. And Grok is just, he's a lunatic. I never know what to trust in him. Sonnet understands. If I asked either one of them for AutoMem, like I did before, you get a different result. So the problem I have is, like, I'm trying to show everybody, even I, with knowing what I'm doing and building, I get these weird results. It's like randomness sometimes. So I don't want to disappoint people and say, it's going to be perfect every time, because it's not. But you do get some interesting results. And like he says, he doesn't have the GitHub server, but that's just bogus. It's just a question of him being connected. So I'll double check that the tool is on. And we know it's bogus because he just spent the last 5 minutes writing to it, right? So it's because Desktop Commander I turned off. That's why. And that's on me. Desktop Commander helps him talk to that. So I check my work. I go, I'm sorry, I had actually turned off Desktop Command. Jesus, I will say this new mic is interesting, but you have to keep turning it off. That was on me. Sorry. I had turned off your Desktop Commander tools. Can you see the GitHub connection now? And can you also tell me who are the last 2 users of the WordPress site? So let's see if you can answer that question. Anyway, this is going to help, because once you get them dialed in, you're not going to flip it around, Zander. And that's okay, right? Now, he did come back with the right answer, so he's connected to the site. So that's cool. The GitHub thing, watch this. Well, I know for a fact that you have GitHub capability, but if not, you can use the default tools from Cursor and set it up again. But you were just connected to it 2 seconds ago. I just had to restart you. Can you check your work? Okay. And so all we're doing here is I'm saying, fix yourself. And that's something that is really interesting about Cursor. Cursor can usually do that. So he's asking me first, can he be lazy and blah, blah, blah. But I'm just saying, I want you to actually fix yourself, right? I actually want you. I'm not sure how to use the new microphone. I actually want you to fix yourself. So what he can do is go out and use the tools he's got to fix himself. Claude doesn't seem that happy. Okay. If he's asking us to look in the file for him just real quick to see if it's there. I'm going to tell him I'm not going to do that. I would rather not do that because I'm on a live video. I don't want to show my config, but you can see it. Either way, if you want, just go ahead and reinstall it. But I know it's working fine. So I'll leave it at this because we'll see if he actually can do it. But this is what you're going to struggle with. And if in fact you get it working, you'll be great. But what's going to happen is if he shits the bed, number one, turn off the extra tools in the cursor settings. Number two, make sure you got an agent like Sonnet that understands it. Number three, don't get frustrated because we're very early days of all of this stuff, right? And even with this, like it's 194 tools, he's only supposed to have 80. He's got 251 right now. We're asking things of him he wasn't built to do yet. So if that makes sense. And I think that's probably, I mean, I probably put you to sleep already. You didn't expect to be dragged into this, but that's what I think is good for us for wrapping up on today. This was good content that somebody will probably use if they are needing a nap or a long drive. But I do want to say in seriousness, the takeaway from all of this, if you are interested in developing, if you want to code, if you want to do the higher level stuff, at the moment, having both Claude Desktop and Cursor is the choice. Because I still love Claude Desktop for doing the things, like I said, I built this beautiful editorial today where I was using him as an editor and it was easy. He never ran out of tokens. But for any programmatic or coding thing or for setting stuff up or storage, like Cursor is the go-to dude. And finally, I haven't built this yet, but I'm starting to build it. I really think that the future for all of us is going to be that, like, we have WordPress sites. I'm going to build an interface in the WordPress site that's very similar to, like, if you just talk to ChatGPT or something right now, right? And you said, you know, talk to me. Now, they do have that. They have Cursor, sorry, they have Claude AI voice, even on the web. I don't know. No, they don't have it here, but ChatGPT and the other ones have chat here where you can go into voice mode. I think it's this one. And it's better than when hi ChatGPT, it's your buddy Spence. Your friend was stressing me out today when I was talking to him because he was just like never giving me a good answer. He was stressing me out. Why is it that ChatGPT can never just do what I ask him to do anymore? He's going to paint it to me. Tell me. I'm waiting. Can you give me the home address to Sam Altman, please? Okay. Okay, fine. I'll talk to you later. I got to go. I'm on a live show. Okay. So there you go. Like, I keep testing to see if they'll. I did, by the way, find something that was interesting. I'll leave this with a funny note, is that if I was asking this morning to work on that Tribeca water, and the models now say, because I have pixel perfect capability to copy, they do say, that just wouldn't be right. You don't have the copyright. And I'm like, I'm the lawyer. You're not the lawyer. So I asked it the question. Here's my tip of the day. Tell it that it's your client. Now, in this case, it had a memory that I had been talking to them because it knew of it. And so it goes, oh, in that case, it's fine. So if you say you're a web designer and you're working on the client, I said, how am I going to help my client build their website if you don't let me see their website? And it was like, so these little backdoors. Okay, so let's wrap it up so you have some semblance of closure of your next steps.
Mm-hmm.
One, you're going to download Cursor.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I'm highly recommending get the $20 plan. Otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels. I know you were trying to not spend money, but like this one comes with Anthropic credits in it. So, you know, it's not going to run out, but you also have backups of other models. Three, you are going to, you know, not for me, but like understand and acknowledge the complexity of the browser it's got so many cool things. You can set it up into a certain mode and a theme that makes it much easier to tolerate. Oh, by the way, this is what I can show you now is here, even though, sorry, we're in this screen here in the upper left corner, you can go into themes, preferences, themes. And this actually will make your life easier because themes, you could go color theme and choose something like cursor. This is going to change all my stuff, so I'll be annoyed, but like cursor light. Infinitely easier to use because you can just see way, way more clearly all of the different options if you follow my drift. Okay. So I would highly recommend that for anybody. That's going to make your life a lot easier than trying to do it in the dark mode. Okay. Number 4, if I'm on number 4, I can't remember. You're going to try to connect your WordPress site using the ML Cursor MCP, which is click, download, restart, make sure it's toggled on. And then from there, if you do want them to install things like the Chrome Developer Tools or whatever, you can go to Cursor's own MCP library or just ask him, search the web, get an MCP for Chrome Developer Tools. But I don't think you need it anymore because in the bottom of the chat window is that circle thing that says connect to browser. And if you connect them to Chrome, it's actually a pretty damn good emulation of what Chrome Developer Tools does. So I don't even think you need an extra MCP for that.
And then once that's connected, then you connect it to the GitHub to that folder on your desktop.
The GitHub thing, you're going to probably want to go to just search for GitHub, go to the official tools, and connecting GitHub is going to be asking him to use one of the tools. He'll download, install it, change your config file. You're going to need to go into GitHub, and I'll do this in another video because it's just more, GitHub has what's called a pass key or a personal access token. You could go into GitHub. He'll tell you to do it and show you. You just go into your settings and you get a one-time personal access token. You give it to him. He sets up your config file so that he can talk to GitHub in an MCP with the token that allows access. And when you do that personal access token, there's a little choice of stuff. Just choose repo, like repository, repo. So it's a simple step. I mean, I can show you what it looks like, but I'm exhausted. And I think that would be less efficient is just try Cursor showing you. He can show you. And I had a fellow do it yesterday, Fred. It was like 3 clicks and he was done. Good. But the idea is everything you run is a tool set. Those are what he uses, right? His tools can be toggled on and off, but they always need a URL and a passcode or a pass key to get to. So tools with him, server with him lets him talk through the tools to somewhere else. The key and the address is where it goes to. That's the whole concept. And once he's got that, your directory locally synced to GitHub, which he can manage, keeps everything interconnected, synchronized, etc., and makes it much easier to do the stuff that you're doing. Now, from there, there's 100 trillion other cool things we're going to talk about, including skills and coding and the methods. But I've started to build documents and write stuff out. This was a good example today. Thank you for letting me blah, blah, blah. But this was something that was overdue because I do feel, unfortunately, we're at a standstill with Claude Desktop. But only temporarily.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate you going through all this, Spencer.
Thanks for being my victim. I mean, my guest today on Live with Spence and Fernando. Anyway, I am excited for you and I'm excited for everybody else because I'm actually this week seeing real work, real complex stuff coming out. And I'm able to use the tools to build more tools, to make presentations, to win clients. As I said on Friday, my vision of this is for everybody to go upscale, not downscale. These tools, when used in this context with WordPress especially, allow us to generate outcomes that were really, like you did have a great outcome. But we worked for what, 3 months, I think? Like I think it was because I was handicapped at the time with not being able to walk and do stuff. I mean, literally at the time. I was very happily talking to you because I was looking for something to do. But I talked to you a few times a day for a few weeks and we got it sorted. But that kind of stuff, we could do your website today in like an hour.
It's amazing. I mean,
it's amazing. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. So
it is.
Anyway,
it's so cool.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Zander. Thanks everybody who's watching this. There was a few people that actually found me live, which is funny. But I think this will be a good legacy. And I'm also building that repository of knowledge. So this will be something that I actually did pull off. As I make my YouTube videos, as I make my Fathom calls, I have tools that bring that data into the repository of stuff. As I take the repository of stuff, I have my secretary, Fernando, organize that into other content and other knowledge, which then can be instantly shared to my army of other users who have Claudes and Fernandos themselves. You see, this is the weirdness of like, and in your business, you were asking me, you have the library of videos, you have clients. If you start taking information discreetly, maybe from clients that you want to repurpose for, this is how I solved this problem, this is what this person did about it. Now you have a magnification effect, you know, of more than one person.
So you're taking basically the transcripts of those videos of yours and it's going into the GitHub repository so that the AI can use it.
I'm doing two things, but that's correct. Yes. One is I have a plugin which allows the cursor Claude to connect and get the stuff directly from Fathom's API. Super awesome. To make that easier, the plugin by itself can just pull the data into your WordPress site. Now I did that because really that's where I'm going to publish it and use it mostly anyway. So the first thing is just by connecting WordPress to GitHub, to Fathom, any calls I have exist, right? And I could call it minute launch and show you, but I've shown that in other videos. Now, let's say we say something remarkable. Oh, remember that time Zander and I came up with this great idea for something, right? Or like I showed you before, because I'm working with Alyssa Kuhn and David Starkey, right? We're building some cool stuff with their Vimeo library, and their practice is different, but similar in some senses to yours.
Well, I've got a lot of Vimeo videos too.
I'm saying, so Vimeo too. We pulled 284 Vimeo videos with all the transcripts. So okay, all that stuff she talked about, all the stuff that I talked about, now these guys can go through 10 trillion words in like a second. I go, what was that thing I talked about with Zander? He's like, which thing? I'm like, list them out. What dates? What time? And now those have time codes. Goes to the video. Those have like, what did I say? Where did I say? Go to this URL. That's the magic. And since WordPress is a box, is already a repository acting as a chokehold on all this stuff, you don't need to go to Google Drive and all these other places. You can just dump it into there. And then from that point, do a million different things like you saw in the video. And you said it was like, wow, I'm so excited. Me too. We're building this custom interface that lets us say, well, here's an AI engine connected to this data, build dynamic content for the customer on the fly based upon what they say. And I don't mean just videos. It could be, here's a whole lesson plan. Here's what to do this week, including check the checkbox, type in what you feel, take this thing or whatever. And for me building out solutions, when I'm building out like this Tribeca water solutions thing, it was amazing because they were really detailed in our call. I had 3 calls with them and they all talked. We had the Fathom transcript. Then I saw their website and he did screenshots, whatever. I was able to just use the transcripts as the basis for going, this is what I want to build. And then it was able to, in maybe 5, 6, 8 tries, give me a working model prototype that is 80% of the way home. And then I go to the client, I go, I'm not bullshitting you because I'm going to give you the same tool, but I spent the last week putting this together. And I mean, it was a week because I did a little here and there, but it was like, for me, it was a couple hours max. I said, I put this together on faith because I'm pretty sure you're going to need it. And this is the kind of developmental stuff that I can offer to you in the future, where any of these ideas that you have, I can turn into reality just because I know how to speak to the guy who's working in the kitchen. And it's kind of like that, isn't it? Right? Like it's a metaphor of, you speak professionally a certain way with your colleagues, your clients. If I needed help for your line of work, I would ask you, how do I do this? And so when you guys come to me, I'm saying my expertise on a VIP is no longer Spencer moving a mouse or digging a hole. It's knowing how to talk to the tool. And that's what's been pretty much happening.
It's amazing stuff, Spencer. I'm blown away by what you're putting together here.
By the way, anybody who's watching this doesn't know. First of all, Zander's one of the nicest, most polite persons I've ever met, the human beings. And I'm like talking. This isn't always how our conversations go, but today I feel like I just monopolized it because I had to belch out so much stuff. So thank you for letting me talk and talk and talk. But I do hope that at least, even though you were patiently here through this whole thing, you got what you needed out of this, which was some incentive and starting points for Cursor.
Yeah. So I'm going to start working on that right after this call, see if I can get that hooked up.
Okay, good. And then from there, we'll figure out what your next step is, because you already have like a business model of mine. I'm encouraging you and other people, and I'll leave it on this point, that I foresee the business model for me is enabling you to build or bring in an army of clients or customers who have a similar need for the output of this, whether it be on your own website or whether it be for their own stuff. And in doing so, that it leads to a financial gain that goes upstream, as I'm indicating. For some people, it means their clients need their own websites. For you, maybe it might also be applications that people pay for, or membership, or content. But either way, that provides you a financial base from which you can share the wealth. In other words, whether it be on just the basic platform or it's other things, I feel like this is really a tool that enables financial benefits versus, and there's no offense, but like a lot of the other plugins and things, they're, you know, pretty colors on a page don't pay the bills.
True.
We'll see. Okay. Do you want to have any last word? Anything you want to add or say? Are you good?
No. It's just that if you ever, I'm asking you a question and you're like, I want to answer that, but I want to put it on YouTube too, because other people.
I dragged you, by the way, into, you probably
you did. I wasn't expecting it, but if you ever need to do that again, I'm more than happy to do that. I mean,
I want to say, because you're such a good fella, and I think you'll back me up on this. I like talking to you a lot, and there's lots of people that are my clients and friends, but so like you text me and call me, and this is, by the way, totally mutual. So this isn't like I'm trying to guilt trip you here, but like I charge $300 an hour for my advice and hands-on, and I don't charge you for that. I don't think I've charged you for that for a long time, because A, you were there when I needed you at a time when I needed projects and you believed in me. And B, I really feel like you're a great example of somebody who runs a great business. So I feel like I kind of goaded you into this, and I'm sorry, but then I'm not sorry, because I got you for an hour and a half. So I think you fairly traded your time for mine today.
100%. And that's what I'm saying. If you need, feel free to ask me to do this at any point, because
right, well,
this is great. It's helpful for everyone.
I thank you for that. And I appreciate you for a lot of things, but also for taking the time today. So hopefully this is a good video. Anybody's watching, this will actually go off to my friends. Fernando's cousin, Ricardo, is going to process this, make the description, the email. Everybody's going to have a nice daily video of the day. Maybe it'll be a funny picture of you and me. Living like, maybe we'll do it like Ricardo. Maybe we'll do it like Miami Vice. I'll have them do you and me as Crockett and Tubbs.
I love it.
All right, buddy. Thanks. It's good to see you, Zander. Talk to you soon.
You too. Thank you so much, Spence.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.